sort of a pretty warm autumn's day. Summer's not given up without a fight. So I'd come and hang out in the gazebo. It's a bit of a nice spot, this one. It's been here for years and I haven't really taken advantage of it. And so, yeah, I just thought I'd come out and made a hot brew. Yeah, it's a black coffee today. Whew. Dangerous. What about you guys? What's happening out there? You guys doing right? Oh, everything's gone quiet. That's nice. That's nice. We've got the birds are pretty busy today. I was sitting outside watching the sunrise, and there's all these ducks flying over, back and forth. Very cool. And the tuis and the fantails. It's very cool. Very cool little spot we've got here. I'll show you a little bit more of it. Can't see too much, but it goes on a bit. And, whoop, and then over this way too. So yeah, we're sort of got this beautiful backdrop of sort of a little bit of forest here, and there's some native trees and also some non-natives as well. So we've got a pretty wide variety. I was thinking about a topic, and I thought I'll just hit the go live button, make a coffee, just after doing some lovely meditations. Been working on, what have I been working on? I'm working on this letter R from Bardon's Kabbalah. It's very, it's, what I'll say is that, sometimes the effects of these letters, they found some are almost instantaneous, and then some have a bit of a lag, or they have a delayed effect. And yeah, that's quite interesting. That's quite interesting, and I wonder why. And I think about the various levels of activity, the realms of operation, and what I think of is that perhaps there's a sort of an area that needs some strengthening. That's really all I put it down to. Theoretically, if you've got access to the frequency, it'll be there. But yeah, I think some are certainly more gentle than others. But yeah, so guys, you're most welcome to drop questions, comments, whatever into the chat. I'll be here for a little bit, just enjoying being outside in the sun, and yeah, just fun to hang out, really. No particular sort of conversation I wanted to have. I'm sure something will pop up. I mean, we could talk about any number of things, really. Actually, maybe we'll just sort of wander into this a little bit. Sort of, I mentioned this a bit yesterday in a live that I did, where I was talking about this concept of the village keep right. Someone who sort of takes on the role of applying their practice for beyond themselves. They've decided, I really feel like I want to do something with these capabilities. Oh, excuse me. These capabilities that I've attained, developed. I want to share the love. I want to put this out into the world, and I want to just I want to see things get better as a result, and see what I can affect too. And I was thinking, just sort of browsing through YouTube a little earlier and seeing the sort of the disharmony and the disparity, and this what appears to be quite obviously a type of destabilization of society across the planet. And sometimes it really does feel like it's under the veil of good intentions, but I feel that that's a sort of a false facade. It's not real. You know, there's this constant sort of polarization. Uh, Sorry, so is that how to train your dragon edits? No, I'm not from Australia actually. I'm here in New Zealand, which is another country off to the side of Australia. We're not part of Australia. We're quite similar in some ways, but yeah, not directly. So yeah, I was just monitoring this uh, this this very palpable sort of I guess you might call it division. That's quite obvious. This polarization of people. It's like there's a concerted effort to sort of um, get the population to fight amongst itself, to divide it, and yep, that technically, yeah, I qualify as a Kiwi. That's what we sometimes referred to down here. That word could be unwrapped in a bunch of ways, but so I might just see if I can I turn the comments off just for now? Can I do that? I'm not sure if I can. Chat filter. I'll come back to the messages in a second. There we go. I'll come back to the messages soon, guys, because they're quite distracting. I lose my train of thought, and I think this is a fairly important topic. But thank you. Please put your messages in, and what I'll do is that once I'm about halfway through my coffee, I'll jump back in and check the messages. So leave me some surprises. Thanks. Um, but yeah, I mean, one thing that stands out is this kind of gaslighting by the media to get people upset. Where I live, there's a lot of construction going on, and they're building a lot of new housing developments here, and so we're having this sort of concentration of population, um, massive growth here. There's just all these people here now. You know, I live in used to be a little bit of a kind of a quietish sort of seaside village. We're a long way from the motorway and from the trains and things, so it's generally pretty quiet here. But can you hear that? That bird is a rosella, and for the bardonists out there, it's quite a curious bird because it has a red head. It has kind of a blue chest, and it has a lot of green as well, and then it's got these sort of browny red legs from memory. So yeah, it's quite fun. But yeah, you know, it's quite. We're noticing the change here in the community. There's also some other stresses as well. On top of the build up of the traffic, we have some large roading projects here as well, and so we're noticing how this compounds the stress. I mean, you just need to sort of look on the local Facebook groups, the community Facebook groups, to hear what people are sharing concerns about, and whether they're balanced shares or they're emotionally driven ones. Regardless, there's you know you you can't deny that there's some validity in what they're saying. And I've been thinking about this, going, well, like how can I sort of play a part and helping to just settle things down a bit, because these things are going ahead anyway. They're not going to stop at this point. And so, you know, uh, these mounting and compounding stresses, you can, once you do a bit of qigong for a while, as I'm sure some of you guys, whether you're doing sort of like the Bardon system or whatever, you're sort of developing sensitivity. It becomes quite palpable. Even just walking around and seeing the body language of people, and that, it's not maybe so bad if you work and live local, but if you are traveling, like some people travel, you know, an hour or so to get to work from here, And I know that in some countries that's nothing, you know. But that's in a lot of cases here. A lot of people are catching, sorry, they're driving cars and that. And so we have a lot of cars with just one person in them. And so we have a lot of traffic. And so with the condensed population and with the roading projects going on, you know, probably doesn't set a lot of people up for a good day because of the because they're sitting in traffic, and it's you know it's, well, you know how it is, right? You might be enjoying listening to the radio. I mean, I used to love taking my car into town when I was studying music. I could look at that. It timed out at 11 minutes. That's that's pretty fun. And so I enjoyed that trip. I enjoyed that trip because I got I felt like to make it pleasant. I was going to study music, and at the time when I was really into that, it was like, wow, this is so cool, because I've been working for so long. I've been working in a full on, like, sort of industrial type corporate job for about, how long was it? Must have been about 9 or 10 years, I guess. And yeah, it was pretty serious. It was a high pressure industry. It was trucks and diggers and construction and forestry and mining and transport, and they're high pressure industries because things break down, holds the whole thing up. And you get a lot of serious and intense people come in. But anyway, so but I was used to being in traffic, and yeah, and traffic certainly took its time and its toll. It was usually the afternoons that were probably more of a struggle, because you just wanted to get home, and if back in those days, not everyone had aircon in the car as well. Air conditioning was was not as common as it is now. And so the trip home, and it was often not everyone went to work at the same time, but a lot of people would finish at the same time. People like to get to work early, but they would leave 5:30, and far out, man. It reminds me of an event we had here. We still have it. It's called Christmas in the Park, but it's really Coca-Cola in the park. It's like a big sign that says Coca-Cola and then Christmas in the park. And you'd get there and it was fine, 250,000 people at this event in the Auckland Domain. And then when everyone left at the same time, it was madness. But anyway, I'm wandering away. I'm thinking about how we can use our practices, or how I can anyway, to sort of help sow some harmony back into the local fabric. Because these mounting pressures, people are pretty resilient, but at some point, sometimes there's only so much air you can blow into the balloon before it pops. And there's already enough sort of stressed out, depressed, emotionally charged sort of situations and people out there. And there's allowed to be, but I like going up and enjoying myself when I go up into the main street, and you can tell that things are changing. And I've seen reports of things that are going around in other parts of the world as well, and I think I get the feeling it's kind of happening everywhere, especially in Western countries. I mean, there's turmoil happening all the time everywhere, isn't there? But there's certainly a big push, and these forces that are, I guess, deploying these destabilization tactics. It might sound a bit conspiratorial, but I don't know. It's pretty obvious. You do this, you get that effect. We've seen it all throughout history. Now, I could touch on any number of topics to go into details of this, but I know that what I'm talking about. Regardless of which party is in whichever government, whether you like blue, red, purple, orange, green, their policies do seem to change when they swap out, but then there's these underlying policies that don't change. And whether you're part of a minority group or a majority group or this group or that group, it kind of feels like these groups get used. And once the usefulness is gone, oh, off the stage, roll out the next one. Whichever group it is. I'm not being specific here, because that's problematic. That's the polarization tactic that I see being sort of played out. It's like, let's use labels and attach associations to certain groups based on their preferences or their appearance, their whatever it is, and then let's charge them up. Like let's radicalize aspects and elements of that. And that's essentially feeding these lower parts of the populace, keeping people sort of caught in a pattern, and it doesn't really help, towards building this ideal situation that we'd like to aim for. Or maybe utopia is just that. It's a utopian dream. Doesn't mean we don't have to try, striving for a better situation and being realistic about the constraints that we find ourselves in. I think too that when things are forced, there's always going to be a pushback, and that's quite natural. Some things are we know that there's something not right here, but I've seen over time how things get normalized just through repetition and through pure will, the force of things. And, it can become quite overwhelming because it can affect you directly. I mean, if we look what happened all those years ago, and what's happening now, these revelations about people who have, maybe they were given good information, but they didn't operate on it. And there were other groups who had concerns, rational, intelligent concerns, and they weren't addressed. In fact, they were marginalized, labeled, and pushed off to the side, and people were told to laugh and point at them. Now we sort of got these revelations, and so you've got this constant kind of us and them. You've got all these divisions in the household and the community, and that these wedges are being driven down. It's a bit fucking juvenile, really, isn't it? Sorry, YouTube. It's evil. It's actually quite evil. And but I think too that a full frontal sort of strategy is kind of what's desired by certain groups too. So I think there's a smart way to play this, to improve things. And I've said this before, in that I truly feel that the way we start to improve is to start from the grassroots up, by finding people in our physical proximity, as best as we can, or online, whatever, But if you like, say, this is the town that I was pretty much born in. This is where I find myself right now, and I've got a connection here because of my family and my loose, if I call it my ancestry. It's only maybe 4 or 5 generations here in New Zealand. My family came from a variety of places in Europe. Primarily, I think it was England, France, Germany, these types of places. Holland, perhaps. It's a bit vague. I think I'm about 1/16 German. I think that's the strongest that I'm aware of anyway. And maybe Welsh. Where there's muck, there's brass. Um, but yeah, here I am, and I'm looking around, and I'm wondering, like, I can't help but feel part of the environment, and I really struggle with things, when they're just running amok. Like, why is this happening? Where are the voices of reason coming out? I'd like to think that there's more of that happening now. There's people who have had the opportunity to practice courage and they can't sleep at night, so they're standing up and they're saying things, which is really good, because it gets other people thinking too. Especially if these are people who have earned some credibility in the community for whatever reason. It's not based on an emotional kind of drive as such. It's like, this is not just illogical. It's actually, you know, it's counter to harmony in the community. It seems it's gone beyond any kind of sort of appearance of ineptitude, and it's sort of moved into this. You kind of feel like that whatever's happening is completely intentional, and yeah, I've seen some good situations go sour over the last bunch of years. I've seen people who came together over the lockdowns. Those alliances have split. I mean, that's fairly natural when you get involved in a large group or in a group, and then you get to know each other, and then you go, well, okay, actually, this isn't working for whatever reason. It's like a relationship. Will over time, the one of the main separators is the difference in values between people, and yeah, time, because there was all of this enthusiasm and positivity and confidence, and something happens, something abrupt, and certain buttons are pushed, and then it just causes this kind of implosion situation where it's no longer tenable. Yeah. Anyway, cheers, guys. It's lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for joining me. All right, let's have a look at the chat. What surprises have you guys got for me? Channel activity. No, that's not the one. How do I... I've got... Jesus, is all messages. Here we go. All right, what do we got? My pet white-tailed spider is gone. Well, we get plenty of white-tailed spiders here. Usually it's a change in temperature that seems to force them inside, or they come inside. But yeah, we get some whoppers, and oof, they're nasty little things, aren't they? I know they're just living their lives, but yeah, we don't like them too much. Put them outside, or yeah, we got lots of spiders here in New Zealand, but nothing too massive. Although if you remember that movie Arachnophobia, that used Avondale spider, which is from here in New Zealand, and Avondale spider is quite large. I remember driving through Avondale, which is out West Auckland, and I was on my way out to band practice, and I'm driving in the car, and I see this person's lawn, and I see the spider walking across the lawn from my car. The spider was that big. Now, I know some of you who live in countries, you'll have dinner plate spiders and, these giant spiders. And they're probably not even harmful. If anything, they're just quite large and a bit creepy because they're so big. We're quite lucky here. We don't have a lot of super big, creepy crawly things. It's mostly birds and I guess we've got wetters. Wetters apparently, I think one of the biggest that we've got here. They're like they're hard to describe. They kind of look like a cockroach, not a cockroach. Sorry, they look like a grasshopper type of a cricket, more of a grasshopper, but yeah, they're quite large. If you want to look them up, look up a weta, Weta, just like Weta Workshop, that Lord of the Rings and all that. So Goxuasus says hi. Well, hi back. But yeah, I think there's lots of ways of helping to sort of seek to maintain and build harmony in the local hood, if you know what I mean. If we bring this down to the street, right? So there's people struggling. There's people in houses who is probably 2 doors down. There's probably someone in there who hasn't left the house for 5 days in a bad way, and they don't answer the door. They don't answer the phone. They only go out when they have to, and their life's not looking too good. And oh, let's just turn that down. And this could be happening more than people realize. I have a friend who used to be a debt collector, and he would tell me stories. He would say, you just don't know what's going on in your local neighborhood. He used to do some work around here, and he said, yeah, like 2 doors down, there's a meth lab. 2 doors down from that, there's a house filled with rubbish and a single mum and a kid, and they she just doesn't know what to do. She's got no family, got no support or whatever. And I think, reflecting on a recent conversation I had with someone, you know, the real change sort of happens at the, it's about changing hearts and minds, isn't it? Like I think some people are going to be very effective at the physical level. They're going to create environments where people can go and not have the visual noise and maybe the toxic sort of environmental inputs of, EMFs and the crappy air and the bad water and things. And there's this thing about like, well, but that's on site. You have to be there in that time and space, right? If we look at, metaphysics, we have this opportunity through the mental and astral realms of operation to create causes, and the only thing I would say about that is that like when we're operating like this, it's valuable to know what we are allowed to engage in, right? Because sometimes we think we're doing the right thing and we may actually not be helping. And it's funny, I'm reflecting on this because I was hanging out with a friend last night, and he's a virtual artist, and he was making a set of scales, and I was thinking, oh, this is this fella here, isn't it? This lady here, I should say. Actually, I think this is a lady in this case. Scales there, justice card, and it's funny, like, because then I have the temperance card right here, and they're mixing the water and the sun and the moon. They're making the mix. And things right themselves. There's a set of checks and balances going on. And things do come right. Time does heal wounds. Problem is that, there's probably a lot of unnecessary wounding going on. And the other thing that's quite interesting is that, one of the popular associations of the Justice Tarot card on the Kabbalistic Tree of Life is, I can't remember the path number off the top of my head, but it's associated with the Hebrew letter, or the letter L, Lamed, which is the one of the healing letters in Bardon system. which is the lovely sort of olive dark green color. And it's funny, when you think about, justice, the writing of things, things balance themselves out, cause and effect. That's a kind of a healing, isn't it? You know, bringing things back into equilibrium, whether it's a physical ailment or a mental or emotional situation. And I think as far as a calling in life goes, for people who are wanting to sort of, they're like, they don't just want to practice in their bedroom or in their own personal zone. They're naturally wanting to be of service. You can seek out ways of deploying yourself to be an agent of positive change in the world, and lawfully, so that you're not unnecessarily disadvantaging yourself at a sort of in the long game. Like, we learn how to tread so that we don't collect unnecessary baggage along the way. And like David Coleman said in one of the recent catch-ups on the Bardon, the live panels that we have every so often, periodically, we're here for our spiritual development. That's it. And that includes being of service to the Sandpit. Whether we're operating as independents, or if we're operating under the guidance and the inspiration of Providence, divine Providence. It's largely, all on the table. It's a pretty wide open situation. But yeah, like how do we sort of, because, struggle produces some pretty amazing outputs too, doesn't it? Struggle in the form of, I might just see, can I get out of the sun here, or am I? Nope. I'm going to be in the sun. I actually don't want to get burnt. Is there another spot I can sit? Maybe we'll go over there. Come with me. Oh, here we go. This is nice. Alright, can you see me right still? Hang on, I'm just going to grab a chair. Alright, this might be a bit wonky, but alright, let's see if we can make this work. Coffee. Oh. Chair. Alright. Actually, I might be able to lean back here. This would be nice. Thanks everyone for joining me here. I'm grateful for you guys. Genuinely. Thank you. Oh, yeah, I'm a bit on the side, but should be right. Actually, this is nice and shaded right here. Make sure I'm not going to fall over. There's a big, there's a big hole right here. It's quite odd. Yeah. So yeah, I wonder about this. Like what's the best sort of way to operate in the world where you can, do some good, and if that's what you want to do. Like, no judgment here, man. Like there's players here who are meant to fulfill certain roles that generally we might think of as being not that great, not that pleasant, not that nice, but they're here to fulfill a job, and that's not me. I have my moments sometimes where I might be a bit disruptive or a bit. I used to be quite a moody person. I've managed to get that down a bit, especially working as a healer and doing the Reiki practices. The Reiki practices have been really great for, and just meditation in general, but, attending to that realm, that's sort of in charge of moodiness, having a system or a map. Should come over here. A way to deal with it that's quite functional. Oh, I'm getting there, guys. Thanks for yeah. So have you guys, how about yourselves? Have you yourself had a desire to apply your practice for the improvement of the situation somehow? It can seem a little daunting too, can't it? It can seem quite overwhelming, the situation that we find ourselves in. Like I said, there's a lot going on here in New Zealand. It just feels like there's just like a constant stream of stress being pumped into the population's awareness, to keep them basically angry at each other, and there doesn't appear to be an end to it. You kind of do have to stay abreast of current events to an extent, because it's intelligent to have that information available, and there's an intelligent way to expose yourself to it though too, because a lot of it's like there's a lot of unhealthy fat, if you will. There's fun and valuable elaboration and fat on a topic, but then there's also this kind of how things get spun, that's the spin, and that just, like I said, that's some people just get set off by things, and imagine if we did have mental training in schools, right? Now, I'm not a fan of school. I worked in schools as a music teacher, and I'm a big fan of homeschooling, because I think parents will find strength and capability within themselves that they didn't know that they had, and they'll learn together with their children, and there'll be a much stronger bond. And you're not outsourcing your your child's formative years to people you don't know, that you may have highly different values from, right? The thing is the kid goes, oh well, mum and dad are sending me to this place, so it must be okay whether I like it or not, and then they come home and tell the parents what they learned, and they're like, what are they teaching you? And they keep sending them back to this place, and the kid's just like going, I don't get this. Why do you keep sending me back to this place that I share information from that you tell me is bad or whatever? So yeah, no, I'm full on into homeschooling. I think it's the future. I think teaching your kids yourself, you'll probably do a much better job. You can help them foster their interests, and then give them the skill sets and the tools to develop a life around that thing that they're interested in, rather than making them a functional member of this functional society. You can sort of put some potent agents of positive change into the world, some highly aware kids, and get them into martial arts and focus, and what else? Get them on the road to becoming entrepreneurs. I worked in a company where there were people who had been in those jobs for 30 years. And then as soon as they got made redundant, or there were job cuts coming or anything like that, they just didn't know what to do. They become so comfortable that this thing was catastrophic. They couldn't imagine their life outside of this particular work environment. And when you get your safety threatened in some way, or your security threatened, how do you respond? And I think it's good to have a bit of a shake up, isn't it? You know, it sort of lets you know where you're at. You know, how do you deal with situations? Because if you're sitting in a comfortable posse all the time, you know, you're not necessarily growing. Um, there doesn't mean no, it doesn't mean that there's not growth. It's just, you know, I think if you're able to, you know, choose your challenges, choose the weights that you lift. That's more ideal. Otherwise, because in some cases you're going to be delivered things. You know, to yeah. I mean, you're going to have things presented to you anyway, and to help you grow. You know, I don't think what do they say? Nature abhors a vacuum. You know, stagnation and all those types of things. I've experienced that several times, and it's something shows up, and it's like, oh, that kicks you into life, doesn't it? Yeah. So, you know, how can we? I think I heard Martin Folks say once, you know, treat life like a quest. Well, that's how he does it. Everything's a quest, like in a video game or an adventure or a novel or something like this. You know, and it gives you a whole new perspective on life. You view it differently, right? Oh, look at that. Interesting, huh? Um, and so we take, you know, we turn a situation into something that is, we give it a different sort of a spin. You know, we become less serious about it. I think drama and seriousness have their value and their functional value. And then it's like, yeah, but then we can start taking things too seriously. And I've got to say, as I'm getting older, and when I connect with people who have been on, you know, their journey a bit longer than myself, you know, one thing that the elders will generally say is that don't take life so damn seriously. Chill out, man. You know, some people will carry that stress and that strain with them all throughout their lives, right to the grave, and it doesn't mean they won't get some stuff done though. You know, depends. I think one of the beauties of life is that we're also unique and individual. We can kind of play it how we like. For the most part, I know some people are not in a position to sort of have that luxury. Their sort of their circumstances dictate a little bit, you know, how that works. But here's the, here's the sun. So yeah, let's have a look here. I'll show you guys one of the spreads I do. This is one of the spreads I came up with. So I call this a deck spread. So here's my Rider-Waite deck. This deck came to me from a friend. I've got this beautiful friend who lives just up the road from me, and she's highly intuitive, highly intuitive, and she's a master manifester, and she just sort of rang me one day and said, "I've got something. I don't know. Do you want it?" I said, "Well, what is it?" She goes, "Well, I found this tarot deck in the op shop." And I'm like, "Oh." And it was super cheap, and it was brand new, unwrapped. I'm like, wow. My old Rider-Waite deck's pretty old now. I think it's a bit grumpy. Hey, you, Tim. Great, man. Bro, you have a beautiful day at work, brother. Stay well, eh? Thanks for jumping in, man. And yeah, and so she hooked me up with this deck as a gift, and I was just over the moon. And it talks different to my other one. You know, it's the same deck, same pictures and that. Although I have to say, my other deck, it's so old, it's about that much thicker because all the, you know, the moisture and the use and that. But I uh, I I noticed how much more talkative this new deck is, and it's like got a fresh kind of enthusiasm, and it makes me wonder if you know, sometimes we need to recognize that after a while things can be so not impregnated, but kind of they can have so much intention or use or a type of use loaded into the item that it takes on a personality, and it's probably there for the long run. Like to do a complete clearing on my old deck, I don't know if that's possible. You know, it's probably got so much of a certain type of thing or a variety of things that it's baked into it now. But anyway, I'll show you guys this spread that I do. So what I'll do is that I call this a deck spread because it's not a spread that I put out on the table. I can do this in my hand, and it's kind of fun. It's very flexible, and I think that when it comes to working with any kind of interesting, fun, metaphysical thing, it's there's some things that can be taken a little more lightly than others, and some things that need to be taken seriously with a sacred and careful tone, if you will. But if you're just throwing some cards around and having a chat with someone about a thing, and whatever, you play around a little bit. So what I'll do is that I'll give the deck a bit of a shuffle. I normally shuffle it until it just kind of catches on itself, like it'll go, and then we'll be okay, sweet, all right. That's when I usually know. So I'll just be shuffling it, and then, all right, okay, let's do it. So I'll usually flip the top card over. Oh, here we go. Looks a bit sad, that one, but it's actually like, kind of he's pushing away from that the frothy emotional waters, and we're going in a better direction. Where is it? Hang on, going that way. Okay, so I'll have a look at this, and I'll be like, okay. What are we talking about? And then what I'll do is I'll be like, okay, so this is kind of the situation, right? I'll just bring it down real quick. I'll be like, this is the situation, right? And then I'll maybe talk a little bit about the symbolism, not too much. Most people are curious, because tarot is probably still considered a little bit edgy, I guess, in some ways, depending on where you're from. But I'll just talk a little bit about it. And I really like this deck because when you're talking to other people, most people are afraid of these types of things, or afraid of things because they have no knowledge of them. They only know what they've heard or what other people have said or what they've read. A direct experience is, there's no substitute for it. But there's only a handful of cards in this deck that are remotely scary, if you will. And even then, that's just the way they're presented. But this deck's really good because it shows pictures of people doing things. And that's a very easy way to help people understand that this is something that's going on, and there's a scene being played out. Not all the cards. I think there's 2 or 3 cards where there's not really any people in them. It's more like a thing. I think the tower is kind of one, but not really. There's people falling out of a building in that one. And then the 8 of Wands is another one. But anyway, and then the aces. But so what I'll do is that I'll be like, okay, well, that's the card that talks about the situation. So what we'll do is that we'll take the person's question or their situation, and then I'll relate it to this card, and then so all of a sudden we've created a bridge between the topic and the deck and what's happening on the deck. And then what I'll do is I'll take that top card and the card behind it, and I'll go, okay, well, what's one of the underlying influences of the situation? And then I'll be like, okay, so it's the card behind it, because remember, it's the top of the deck. There's the top card. There's the card right behind it. What's the card that backs onto it? Da-ding. And so that's a little bit more of a heavy hitter when we're talking about the majors. And so what I'll do then is I'll talk about how that is essentially a type of like a macro type influence, because it's a major. Or I won't use too much metaphysical language, because generally speaking, sorry about the noise, we've got heaps of stuff going on here. Let me know if you can't hear me that well, and I'll talk a bit louder, guys. But I'll try to keep it at the street level, because most people don't always know the language, and so you're not trying to flex your vocabulary or your metaphysical lexicon that you can draw from. You want to help people, and so you kind of meet them where they're at, right? And then what I'll do is I'll be like, okay, so that's the card, that's the thing, and then I'll flip the deck over to the bottom card. So remember, this is the top card, and that was the card that backs onto it. And then at the bottom, ding, I'll say, okay, this is where things started. This is where you've come from. And we can talk about, this is generally thought of as a pretty scary card, this one. This and like the 10 of swords and the 9 of swords, and yeah, that's usually about it. It's just those three. Oh, and the death card, and maybe the tower. But it's all a matter of understanding what is being represented here. Now, so let's say, like I said, that's the bottom card, right? So that might be where things started that led to the situation and how that plays in, right? And then what I'll do is I'll be like, okay, let's talk about, now remember, this is not a fixed, like, this in this position means that. It kind of does, but it's really vague in the sense that, I'll give you an example. So what I'll do then is I'll find roughly halfway through the deck, so there's the top card, and then I'll find the halfway point. And this acts essentially as like, it started here, it got to here. What was the thing in the middle that got you to the top? All right. And then what I'll do is that I'll move around and I'll go halfway between again. And I'll do the same here. And so that's kind of one way you can do your spreads, and you can sort of create a cause and effect chain or a chronology that you can read back to people. If you're a reader or if you're into cards, and I find so much value in using these to explain things because they're interesting. They're pretty fun, and I think too, part of the role of like being a teacher of anything is demystifying and taking the fear and the unknown out of things. It's like the difference with this. You can use it for randomized divination and then extracting information from it. Now, that's not going to be the best use for everybody. Some people are just going to be like, or they're going to be like, oh, that's a load of crap. That's just a random card you picked and you're just making stuff up. Okay, whatever. But some people are still going to want to know, even though they hold those views, And so you can see, well, that's why, studying the cards is really valuable from the different people who have talked about them and developing an understanding and a relationship to each card. Because then there's a reason why the cards have those symbols on them and what they represent and how they are attributed to different aspects of macrocosmic and microcosmic cycles. How these cycles can be observed, how they relate back to laws, how they relate back to elemental associations, correspondences, these types of things. So, a card reading can end up being, highly educationally valuable to people because it exposes them to, the concept of metaphysical law principles. We're not talking about, we're not being agnostic here. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. We're like saying, well, this is the model of reality that we're using here to explain this situation. Just like they have different types of maths. Over here it works, over here it doesn't work. Over here, they both work, but they don't always work together. Or, so we have these different models. And it depends on the situation too, like not everyone's going to be cool with this. But there's ways of, going into metaphysical conversation with people that is going to be, I guess, more agreeable to their particular position in life. Like, I don't really advertise tarot readings that much. The people that I do tarot readings for are usually people who already know, who I am and what I do. They're more friends and friends of friends. I deal with creatives and business people, professionals, and that includes entrepreneurs and self-employed people. But people who know that there's a value, and it's funny, like when I first started out on this, like close to a decade ago, and I'm talking to my friends. I'm like, man, like I can do this stuff, but so can you. I can, it's not that hard to do. People look at me going, I got no time. That's why I come see someone like you. I'm like, okay, sweet. Okay, well, I guess I found a place in the world that I can, provide some, value for people, and it's always been a bit of a struggle, I have to say, because of that thing in the back of my mind going, this is a load of crap, or, it's bad because of, early childhood or early years of, being programmed and that. But, and that's loud. Sorry, guys. One thing I found is that there's a metaphysics for everybody. Whether it's maybe an open-minded local Christian friend who loves prayer. They love prayer, and I love prayer too. But I'm going to pray a little differently to my Christian friend. But I'll say to them, oh, show us how you pray. And oh, yeah, sweet as I said, oh, have you tried adjusting your posture? What's that got to do with anything? Well, do you want to try it? Okay, you know. Generally, they have to be open-minded because they know you're into metaphysics and stuff like that. They might not want anything from you, but there's ways of sitting and aligning your body that can amplify the experience that you're having. Man, this chair is really not on a good angle. Hang on, put you over there. Bring the chair over a little bit. Oh, that's better. I could feel my back starting to go, oh, this is not a good idea. So, yeah. Thank you, everyone who's hanging out right now. It's lovely to see you all. I trust you're all having a beautiful day. My name's Phil Rice. Welcome to the Phil Rice YouTube channel. What is this channel all about? Well, if you're new and you've stuck it out this long, well done. On this channel, I just love exploring magic and spiritual stuff, really. I love having interesting dreams and out-of-body experiences, and qigong and tai chi type things, and kabbalah, and how I can have a direct experience with something that's quite curious and interesting, and then sort of pass it along to others. It's a curiosity I love exploring. I can't help it. I'm sort of bound to this path, and I think anyone that starts on this will probably agree that it's quite hard. Once you find like the real deals or something that's got a bit of weight to it, you're like, it's a thing now. What do I do now? And yeah, but anyway, what I was saying is that there's all of these kind of ground level common denominators, ways that we can relate to other people to help them with their practice. And I think that's one of the values of being a hermeticist, and someone who's into practicing health and wellness and these types of things, that you can really bring a lot to the table for people. People are, Silicon Valley are, having people coming and talking about lucid dreaming. There's all these gurus online. They're talking about everything from meditation, mindfulness, to life force, or dreaming, or hermetic principles, or any of these types of things. And one of the cool things about hermetics is, and obviously there's some different angles on what hermetics is that if you kind of take the point of view that it's an objective type of situation that's testable, that can move beyond the subjective. You're able to. You're not trying to convince or convert people necessarily. If anything, people go to church for a reason. They want to have an experience, or they want to be in fellowship, or they love just being in that situation. For whatever they get out of it, for the peacefulness, for some of them are going to go home and have an experience. I would, so there's probably a lot more people having experiences than what they'll admit, and there's probably not as many people having experiences by and large. But that's an observation that may not be completely representative. Depends, depends on your makeup. But there's options out there, and I know that some people will go explore different routes, and then they'll come back. I know some people who have gone down New Age, spiritual. Ooh, dude, check this bumblebee out. Dude, bumblebee, hey, dude, do you want to go on camera? He's huge. Come on, come on. Man, this bumblebee is like as big as my thumb. Hang on, let's see if we can get the camera on him. No, he's gone now. Oh, well, maybe next time. Always fun to hang out in nature. You never know who's going to show up. Haven't been too many birds, actually. They're normally always hanging out. I've tried taking the phone down into the bush there, but the Wi-Fi doesn't quite reach because when I go down there and practice, man, you get all sorts of curious friends show up. So, but yeah. Anyway, I guess what I was just talking about was, if you've got something that you're really into, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be stamp collecting, or I don't know, what is it, train spotting, and you want to share it. You've got the internet now. You can put yourself out there, and you just got to find the right search terms, put that into your channel, into your descriptions and stuff, and the algorithm will generally help find the others. And you got to play around with a few different socials, but whatever. But what it is that you can take something you're interested in, and you can share it with others. And now that we've got these AIs, you can take advantage of that to help elevate your presence in these arenas. You can learn a lot from understanding how algorithms work and that. And this isn't so much pandering to the algorithm, but when you're working on social media, you are inside somebody else's house, and they have certain rules. And if you want to play in their house and meet all the people that are in their house, then there's ways of operating that will, help that. But as far as things like metaphysics and sort of being a teacher or a sharer of experiences, there's the thing, and then there's the value that you get from the thing, and then there's your ability to harvest greater and greater value from experiences. And that value is not, when you get up from like an out-of-body experience or a lucid dream, like it's, I mean, I was doing dream for years, like hardcore dream work, and I was getting up and I was just like, wow, man, I'm so jacked right now. You're just alive and you feel so good. And then sometimes you wake up and you feel like you've like run a mile or 16 miles or something like that. You're just like completely exhausted. But some people want to have these experiences, and some people think they want to have these experiences, and some people want to have these experiences or have an experience supplied to them. So a teacher can give them a little bit of their perspective on how the world works and how the cosmos works. They can also teach them things to help them relax, how to help them have their own personal direct experience with sort of the beyond the veil, if you wish. And then there's being able to supply or provide people with an experience, whether it's being bounced with Fa Jin for Tai Chi, or some kind of energetic interaction between people, Qigong, and then all the different frequencies that you can learn to give people other experiences, like the Kabbalah frequencies and Bardon's material. Then there's a Reiki session. Whatever that is for some people. I know that it's a bit of a diluted term nowadays, but it doesn't mean that you can't. As someone who provides the experience, there's ways of improving or making adjustments to your personal practice, and also to the setting in which you provide the situation, so that people can have a meaningful and profound experience. It doesn't mean they're all going to have it. They're, they're generally pretty common. People will, who'll come, will, if you set it up right. In a lot of cases, people are wound up and they need to relax. They need to get real quiet and still. They've got busy minds, busy emotional situations. They had a whole bunch of coffee and sugar and stuff that's like making their physiology do, awkward drunken cartwheels, and they're like, they can't, sometimes it takes a good 10-20 minutes before you can get them down to the point where they can start just blipping out a little bit, and they'll get visuals or bits of information coming through. And it's not always going to be some profound divine experience, but I've shared this before, but a friend of mine came to me. He was like, man, I really want to get into meditation. I went to these meditation classes, and they gave me a picture of something to stare at, and a candle, helped me look at a candle flame, and told me to visualize. And he basically just got handed all the stuff to do, and he's like, I can't do any of it because whatever, I can't visualize. That's what he said. And I was like, well, okay, well, visualization's a very good skill to have for a bunch of reasons. Being able to hold ideas or visual images in your mind to figure things out. There's a great story about Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison. Tesla called Edison a tinkerer, probably in a derogatory sense, maybe not. Tesla's ideas apparently would be fully formed. He would create them in his mind's eye, in his visual workshop, if you will, and then he would create them. There wasn't version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5 as such. They were more fully formed when they came into physical expression. Whereas Mr. Edison was, he was doing it mostly on the table. He had an idea and he brought it through. He would have had some level of internal capacity, but having I guess an elevated capability or capacity for internal visual work is going to be highly advantageous. That's why it's so early on in the Hermetics training. You want to have that interface set up so that you can close your eyes or leave your eyes open, and you can start to create your own type of augmented reality. It's quite exceptional, as I'm sure those of you who have been practicing or have worked through it are aware. And my goodness, it does take some work, especially if you're not already a visual person. So, yeah. But, if you are, for example, like a healer or a Reiki teacher or a practitioner or whatever, and you're looking to, it can be, standing around, walking around a table and feeling energy and doing these things. If they're coming in for physical healing or something like that, or, I don't know, it starts off with a lot of that sort of thing. But it extends, if you carry on with it, it'll go places that you can't conceive. I would suggest that Reiki is a good sort of permission slip or a front door for people, because it's reasonably well known out in the public vocabulary. People might think it's a massage or something, and you can just give them deets on it. But essentially, you can get people on the table. You can learn about like bringing the light level down. Maybe they've got an eye cushion or an eye pillow. Maybe you're not playing music. Music can be problematic, even soft music. You might have some, some nature sounds in the back, but you don't want to snap them out. You don't want to pull them out of their experience. So if anything, you'll have maybe some white noise or some pink noise playing. And then on top of that, you're doing your body training with your weights and your yoga and your qigong, and you're building up the pipes. And you're, practicing various frequencies, whether they're, whatever they are. For myself, I'm a Hermetic practitioner, so I'm working with elements and the Kabbalistic frequencies. And that's a pretty comprehensive library, just in that. I'm good there for the while, Right now, I'm good, That's a whole. There's plenty of work there to occupy myself with, to discover utility on my service path, So yeah, but yeah, there's lots of ways to sort of broach these topics with people because you know we're not always right, but sometimes it's like, man, my brother or my sister or my friend or they're down. What can I do to lift them up a bit? And you kind of gotta play it smart and go, well, man, like this really, I think that this person would love to know about this or have this experience or whatever, maybe. And so there's a way to kind of articulate it to them, the idea that, hey, look, this might be worth checking out. And I can hook you up or I know someone. And I think even just having a general curiosity for these types of topics makes it okay to talk about them, depending on what part of the world you're in. And it's good because general you know kind of spiritual awareness of things outside of your dogma and religious sort of hard patterns. Um, because that's kind of what's happened nowadays, isn't it? Like, oh, you're into that spiritual stuff. Oh, religion over that end. Oh, you're into hardcore science. Oh, there you go, that end. And then there's that kind of area in the middle there. Um, I guess so that would be probably referred to as the derogatory term. It doesn't need to be derogatory, but it generally gets referred to in that way. That's probably New Age. But yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Well, thank you everyone for sticking around. It's been lovely hanging out here, sitting outside in nature, having a coffee and talking about stuff. I'm very grateful for you all. Um, Chat's looking, what's happening in the chat? Not too much there. That's all good. That's all good. Yeah, so, you know, let's just pull a random card and then I'll probably stitch it up there. Oh, there we go. What do we got? Chances are you've got the capability. You've got all the tools. You've got all that you need physically wise. You've got the energy, the drive. You've got the ability to. You've got the train, but you maybe haven't found which way you want to lay the tracks. Do you know what I mean? And so you kind of got, you're all geared up. You've packed your lunch, you've got your backpack and with your water bottle and your hat and your mozzie repellent, and your shoes are on. You've got good shoes and good clothes, and you're like, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready to do a thing. And then you're like, I think I know what the thing is. Yeah, but you know, or conversely, you've got an idea and you're all equipped, but you don't know how to execute the idea. That's the challenge, is knowing how to execute something. And I think in the modern day, with access to information like we have, really don't have too much of an excuse. If you're afraid of AI, there's plenty of people on YouTube talking about how to execute and get things done. If you want to do this, if you want to do that, da 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 da. So what happens is that you've got the capability, and you can act on it if you wish, or if you're not sure, then you go and learn about it, and then you can turn that thing, that idea, that physical premise, that idea for setting yourself up. So this is a pinnacle. This talks about the earth realm, and it's like a job or a career or like a thing that you want to build or a system you want to develop. It's a thing you want to bring into fact in the world, and but you're not sure how. See, this horse ain't moving. He's ready to go, but he's not moving. But with a little bit of research, a little bit of understanding, never stop gaining them skills. Like, I love all this metaphysical stuff, but the real world demands that I have other types of skills too, especially if I want to be successful online or as an entrepreneur in a business. And it's been an interesting road because it's certainly had its ups and downs. But once you figure out certain things, then you can find your way there. And all you need is a bit of a map. All you need is a bit of a map. What does the map look like? Sometimes you've got to let things go. Sometimes you've got to have a meaningful drop. You've got to change things. Some things have to be let go. Some things have to die. And sometimes it's time. It's hard to let go of some things. Sometimes we don't want to admit to ourselves what those things are. However, once we can, then we can turn stagnation or, unhelpful stillness or uncertainty into something that we can do something with. It's behind. From that not knowing to abundance, wealth, and, the attainment of basic things so that we can do other things. Thank you so much. Have yourselves a beautiful day. So grateful that you joined me here. Please consider heading over to philrice.substack.com. I'll probably go and do a live over there at some point today, maybe. Good, unfortunately, but that's fine. But yeah, I'm very grateful for you all. Have a beautiful day, and we'll see you all again soon. All right, see you then.